Hello and welcome to Happy Handicrafts. My name is Joanna and today we are going to be making a Paper Sloyd bank, or what we know as a piggy bank without the piggy. This is the 18th and final project from the third year from the book Paper Sloyd for Primary Grades by Ednah Anne Rich. If you don't have this book already, I'm going to put a couple links below. One is for an instant download, and the second one is for the hard copy if you want to buy it off of Amazon. So let's get started. This project doesn't have a lot of materials needed. You'll need the book, Paper Sloyd for Primary Grades. You're going to need a cutting mat, an X-Acto knife, a pencil, a ruler, some glue, and some Bristol board or good quality paper. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to create a 11 1/4 by 6 1/2 inch rectangle. So we're going to measure in from the left at the top to 11 1/4 inches and put a dot. We'll move the ruler down a little bit and measure in again to 11 1/4 inches, and we'll put another dot. This is going to be for the building part of the bank. Next, use your ruler to join those two dots with a line. We're going to make this in 3 pieces, the building part, the chimney, and the roof, and then we'll join them all together, okay? Next, use your ruler to measure down on the left-hand side from the top to 6 1/2 inches and put a dot there. Next, move your ruler into the right and measure down again to 6 1/2 inches. Draw a dot and then join those two dots with a line. Now you can use your X-Acto knife to cut out the rectangle. Now with your rectangle positioned horizontally, we're going to put dots along the top and bottom at 2 1/4 inches, 5 3/8, 7 5/8, and 10 3/4. So just repeat that along the bottom. Place dots at 2 1/4, 2 1/4, 5 3/8, 7 5/8, and 10 3/4. Now you're just going to use your ruler to join those dots with lines. Now we're going to measure along the left-hand side, and we're going to put dots at 1/4 inch, 1.5 inches, 3 3/4 inch, and at 6 inches. Now we're going to do the same along the right-hand side. Place a dot at 1/4 inch, 1.5 inches, 3 3/4 inch, and at 6 inches. Now you're going to place your ruler along the first dots, but you're only going to draw a line through the first and the third space. Watch how Lucy does it here so that you can have the visual. That's the first space, she draws the line, and there's the third space. Okay? Now let's go down to the second set of dots, and we're going to draw a line across the second space. She's doing it dotted because that's how it is in the book, and that is going to be a fold line. And then do that across the fourth space as well. Now the third set of dots, you're going to draw a line all the way through. The book has a solid line in the first 3 spaces, so that's what Lucy's going to do. And then she's going to make the fourth space dotted. And we're going to do the same with the fourth set of dots. She's going to do a solid line through the first 3 spaces and a dotted line on the fourth. Now with our ruler along the first line, we are going to put dots at 5/8 inch, 1 1/8 inch, 1 5/8 inch, and then at 6 inches, 6.5 inches, and 7 inches. Now we're going to place dots along the left at the 1 inch mark. And we're going to do this on the first, second, and third vertical lines as well. So here we are on the first vertical line. We're going to put a dot at 1 inch. On the second vertical line, a dot at 1 inch. And on the third vertical line. Place a dot at 1 inch. And now using the diagram in the book, we're going to draw slanting lines from dot to dot. If you don't have the book, watch how Lucy does it here, and you can follow that. The solid lines are going to be the cut lines, and the dotted lines are going to be the fold lines for this. Now we're going to place dots on the 3rd and 4th horizontal line at 7 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to draw a line with our ruler joining those 2 dots. Now on this line that we just drew, we're going to place dots at 1/2 an inch, and 1 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to draw slanting lines to the corners, just as you see Lucy doing. Here it's not mentioned in the book, and we have to catch up later, but you can draw a line all the way to the edge of the paper so that we have a tab on the bottom. You'll see what I mean in a little bit. Now along the right-hand edge, we're going to draw dots at 2 inches, 3 1/4 of an inch, 4 1/4 of an inch, and 5 1/2 inches. Now using our rulers, we're going to draw lines to the corners. Here again, you can refer to the diagram in the book to make sure you're getting it correctly, or you can watch Lucy do it here. On this one, draw a line from the edge of the paper to the edge of the paper so that you get the bottom. See, there's no bottom tab there, and the book doesn't address this. This might be a little error, so we just did it our own way. We measured in 1/2 an inch and 2 5/8 at the bottom there and finished those tabs. Now we're just going to outline the cut lines because we don't want to make any errors. There was a lot of measuring for this and we don't want to mess it up. So we're just outlining the cut line so that we get it correct. Basically, we're just making darker lines. There's a lot of measuring and cutting and pasting with this model, so we're trying to be really careful so we don't make any errors. Now once we've got it all outlined, so nice, we're going to use our X-Acto knife to cut out along those lines we just drew. Once you've got it all cut out, you're going to use your ruler to make those initial fold lines. We're not going for perfect here. We are just doing initial lines, and once we're done that, we're going to come back and reinforce them with the front side of that ruler to make them nice and crisp. Here we're just reinforcing those folds to make them nice and crisp. It makes for a much nicer end product, and it makes it a lot easier to glue it and put it together. Now we're ready to glue it together. When you're working with a fairly stiff paper like Bristol board, we found it's easier to do one piece at a time because it takes a while for the glue to set. So we're going to start with the roof part of it, making sure those tabs go on the inside. So we're going to glue a couple of those tabs, and then we're just going to fit them onto the inside, and we'll hold them in place nicely until that glue sets. Once that's done, we go to the other side of the roof and we'll glue those two tabs onto the inside as well. Once the roof is nice and set, we're gonna glue a tab. There's a tab on the inside that needs to be glued. So we'll just reach in and do that. That's holding those walls all together. And then we end by gluing the tabs on the bottom. You're going to put the glue on the outside of those tabs, and all those tabs are going to fit inside of the walls. We'll fit them in and then hold those walls against it until it's nice and set. Then we'll set it aside, and we're going to next work on the chimney. We have a piece of scrap Bristol board paper here because this is just a tiny piece we're going to use. We're going to cut out a 1/2 inch by 2.5 inch rectangle. So measure down from the top on the left to 1/2 inch and draw a dot, and move your ruler in a couple inches and do the same. Then you'll join those two dots with a line. And then we'll measure in from the left at the top to 2.5 inches and draw a dot. And we'll move it down to that line we just drew and put a dot at 2.5 inches, and we'll join those two dots with a line. Next, using our X-Acto knife, we're going to cut out that little rectangle. Now it's hard to work with this tiny rectangle, but we're going to measure along the top of it. And we're going to put dots at 1/4 inch, 1 1/8 inch, 1 1/3 inch, and 2 1/4 inches. And then we'll do the same along the bottom. We'll measure into 1/4 inch, make sure it's accurate, and draw a dot. 1 1/8 inch, 1 1/3, and 2 1/4 inch. And then you'll use your ruler to join those dots. Next, we're going to use our ruler to measure along the left-hand side. We're going to place a dot at 3/8 inch. And then do the same at the right-hand side. Put a dot at 3/8 inch. Now you're going to hold your ruler at that 3/8 inch mark, and you're going to measure in and put dots at 1/8 inch. This is tiny measurements here. And then also at 1 1/4 inch, little dots there. Now using your ruler, from those dots, you're going to draw slanting lines, just like you see Lucy doing here. They're going to look like little triangles. Now using your X-Acto knife, we're going to cut out those little triangles. Be careful of your fingers here. It's hard with this tiny scale. Now, as usual, we're going to use our ruler to make those initial folds. You're going to fold along every line that you see there. Once you've done all the initial folds, you're going to do those reinforcing folds, making them nice and crisp. When we've finished all the folds, all we've left to do is to put glue on the outside part of the fold of their tab there, and we're gonna glue it together into a little rectangular chimney. Hold that glue hold that tab nice and firm until that glue has set really well. We're gonna need it to have done that before we attach it to the roof. Now the roof part is next. So we're going to move our chimney aside, and we are going to cut out a 3 7/8 of an inch by 4.5 inch rectangle. So we start at the top, measuring in from the left to 3 7/8 of an inch. We draw a dot and move our ruler down a little bit, and measure into 3 7/8 of an inch again, and we'll join our 2 dots with a line. Now we'll measure down from the top on the left to 4.5 inches, and we'll draw a little dot. And then we'll go to that line we just drew. We'll measure down to 4.5 inches again, and we'll draw a little dot. Now we'll join those 2 dots we just drew with a line. There's our rectangle. We're going to cut it out with our X-Acto knife. Once we've got our rectangle cut out, we are going to measure. You're going to want it in a horizontal position. Then we're going to measure along the top, and we're going to put dots at 2 1/8 of an inch, 2 1/4, and 2 3/8. Then we're going to do the same along the bottom. We'll measure in from the left, and we'll put a dot at 2 1/8 of an inch, 2 1/4, and 2 3/8. Now we're going to draw a line through the 2 1/4 inch dots, joining those 2 1/4 inch dots. It's going to be right in the middle. Next, we're going to hold our ruler along the first set of dots, and we're going to draw a dot at 1.5 inch and 2 3/8 of an inch. We're then going to join those two dots with a line. Then we're going to do the same with that third set of dots. We'll hold a ruler along the third set of dots. We're putting a dot at 1.5 inches and 2 3/8 of an inch, and we're going to join those dots with a line. Next, we're going to draw horizontal lines across the top of those lines and the bottom of those lines. And now we're going to fold the roof in half using our ruler initially, right along that middle line. Reinforce that fold really well. Now we're going to use our X-Acto knife. This is where an X-Acto knife comes in much handier than a scissors. We're going to cut along those little horizontal lines we made. And then between those horizontal lines, we're going to cut out the middle line. We're making a couple tabs here. Those little tabs are going to fold back as you see here. And now we're going to assemble it all. If you take the building part of the bank, you're going to put glue all along the roof on both sides. Then we'll take our roof and we just set it on top, right in the middle, and we'll hold it in place until the glue is set. Then we're putting glue on the outside of those little tabs, and our little chimney is going to fit perfectly over that. Keep the tabs on the inside of the chimney. You may even need to reach in and make sure that they rest against the side wall of the chimney. This is where we are going to slip our money. As you see here, it slides in perfectly, falls into the bank, and there we're going to collect all of our spare change until it fills it to the top. How did yours turn out? Are you going to use it to collect money? I hope you save a lot. Thank you for following us. We hope to see you in our next videos.